Now, if you asked traders in downtown Nairobi, any business that wants to take over rental space would have to part with lots of money, often in the millions, towards Goodwill, which is a fee arising from the reputation that a business has built over the years and its relationship with its customers, and is paid separately from the monthly rental fee. However, in an interesting turn of events, the Goodwill concept has gone beyond rental contracts and has quickly caught up in the service industry, where investors are paying an arm and a leg to acquire, train and retain their staff. Now, akin to the multi-billion shilling sports transfer window signings, investors are splashing premium fees in Goodwill to win and retain service providers. And to visit Brian George, for instance, had to follow his Barber to Kangela after he made millions after being poached, and now tells us his story.
It's a Sunday afternoon in Kangela. I'm here for my weekly grooming time. Before I started traveling this far to get my haircut, my barber, Carlington Kiprono, or Calyx, as we call him, worked in town, then moved to another spot before settling in Kangela's Brotherhood Barbershop. He tells me he was bought, literally, and the amount wasn't cheap, or perhaps cheap is relative.
Ilikuwa nataka baadaye kubaya kaa. Sasa kamba hata hiyo unanipesa ati nataka kasi jini. Niko na kitu project ya kufanya. So it told me need that. No, let me just give you that candle. No. But I changed my mind. Kwambia instead of you giving me a car, you pay your dough. But you invest more than invest. No.
Yeah.
So you invest hapa. So that hata mimi sikuwa sasa na move. Just mtu anakuja na poaching unaenda. Wacha sasa niweke hapa ndio pia niko na shares hapa hivi.
Okay.
That's how it went.
So how much was the car worth?
The car in Konataka ilikuwa that hour is 1.9.
1.9. Okay.
That was my deal.
So in short, you can say authoritatively he poached you for 1.9 million.
Calyx also intimated that out of his shares and his labor, his monthly take-home is 400,000 Kenya shillings. The trade has changed so much that he doesn't come alone. His package involves shifting with his masseuse who tags along as part of the Goodwill trade. And while this trend catches up in the Kenyan market, apparently it's been a dog's age trade. At another hair salon and barbershop, Elora Beauty's Point, Dennis Rodman Zoberi is busy at work with a client who's followed him for the last 3 years. Dennis, who's been a hairdresser for 22 years now, says although he hasn't bought any talent yet, he's followed the trend of hairdressers being bought on Goodwill and openly admires just how much investors are willing to spend to acquire talent.
I've had quite lucrative amounts have been given out, so
yeah.
I was wondering why they were not seeing me.
Yeah.
But yes, I've heard about it, but personally I've never gone out to in search of stylists or beauticians.
But how exactly did the Goodwill business start?
So Goodwill essentially, if you look at history, probably dated back towards around the 15th century. And the idea of Goodwill is really, to pay the next person, to get paid for value that you've created within your business. So looking at a simple, say, salon, for instance, this particular individual has been in business for, say, a number of years. So they have created a reputation, they've created a brand, they have a set clientele. So when they are moving out, they expect to be paid a certain amount by the next person because they already have a ready reputation, brand and flow of traffic.
Goodwill is also applied in the professional services industry when talent is changing stations. Sign-on packages are shared, but just how does the valuation happen to ascertain how much talent is worth?
Valuation, and this is done by an independent valuer, registered independent valuer, would say this business is worth, say, 200 million. But then the person who wants to acquire that business says, I will pay you 220 million. So in this instance, that 20 million additional becomes now a goodwill for the business that's being acquired, and it sits as an intangible asset. But now looking at it at an individual level, like the barber we talked to, the individual professional that we said is going to come on to board, perhaps to a new company. It is about their personal brand. So when this person is now negotiating with their prospective employer, they would say, look, I come in with X number of clients. I have, this kind of network. I know these people in the regulators or wherever it is.
Speaking of clients, Pauline Nyambura, who has been Dennis' client for the last 3 years, says she isn't thinking of changing her hairstylist.
Kutoka mbali na yeye because we never started here. Yeah, we were somewhere before, and Dennis, there's a day called Dennis for services, and he told me that he's not in the salon that tulikuwa na yeye. So his products, and hananifuatilianga like 1 month ikiisha ananiambia Pauline, wakati wako wa service umefika. I love that. I really love that.
However, Goodwill business is never straitjacket and does not assure returns. For instance, Grace Omutsani, a short-term accommodation host, better known in Kenya as Airbnb, says while the Goodwill business is equally fast gaining pace in the sector, a lot of strategy in relationship management goes a long way to ensure the buyer or off-taker is profitable.
You're not selling the space only, but you're selling the way you are talking to a client or something like that. With Airbnbs, it's very rare, like maybe 10% a client will walk into a place. And remember, you've sold this place at a Goodwill. So it's not a sure bet, or it's not a sure bet that client will come there. They'll have to ask me first.
Dennis also warns against the over-commercialization of services, saying the industry risks gaining meaningful quality when delivering services.
It will get a point that the quality of the service won't be the same. Yeah, because it lowers the quality of the person.
From Calyx, the main reason why investors poach talent is to avoid the struggle of having to grow a business from scratch. He intimates it pays to do that as men are known to be loyal to their barbers.
Perhaps you'd be asking yourself why you should poach a barber for that much. Let's try and make business sense out of this. My personal weekly budget for shaving, grooming, and a massage is 1,000 Kenya shillings, and I do this every week for a month. That's 4,000 Kenya shillings. Think of Calyx here having 100 of such clients. Brian George, Otieno, NTV, On the Money, Kangela, Kajiado County.